Hi, today we are going to talk about Bahasa Indonesia, or the official language of Indonesia. It is one of the simplest language there is in this world. So if you want to learn a new language fast and quick, this is the language for you. Let's get started. Indonesia is a pretty big country with about 17,000 islands, 350 ethnic groups, and 700 native languages. Therefore, in this big country, we need one single language to unite us all. There is Bahasa Indonesia. Bahasa Indonesia is based on Bahasa Melayu or the Melayu language, which is the language you speak in Malaysia. Therefore, there's a similarity between the two. It started in the 9th to 14th century during the rule of Sriwijaya Empire in the Malacca Strait and uses Bahasa Melayu as its official language. When the Dutch came along in the 17th century, the famous VOC, and started messing around with its people, it also influenced the language. Therefore, we have some similar words as well with the Dutch, such as ananas, kantor, or wortel. Even when we haven't gained independence from the Netherlands, in 1928, the Young People Congress have drafted the famous Young People Vows and have declared that Bahasa Indonesia is the official language of Indonesia. So Bahasa Indonesia literally means the language of Indonesia. And I want to straighten something up. It's when you say I want to learn Bahasa or I'm speaking Bahasa. It's better to say I'm speaking Bahasa Indonesia because Bahasa literally means language. It doesn't make sense when you say I'm speaking language. You're speaking a language. So it's just better to say Bahasa Indonesia as a whole or Indonesian. So why is Bahasa Indonesia so easy to learn? Number one, it's a phonetic language. So you say it as the way it is written and you write it as the way it sounds. You can guess correctly how to pronounce a word without even knowing what the word means. Also, we are not using new characters. It's not Chinese, Japanese, or Korean. We're just using the same alphabet as most language in the world. So it's quite easy to pick up. Number two, Bahasa Indonesia doesn't have verb conjugations or verb tenses, where in English a verb depends on whether it's past, present, or future, and it changes throughout the sentence. While in Bahasa Indonesia, it doesn't change. Verb stays the same. So when you say I am eating, saya sedang makan, I will be eating, saya akan makan, or I have eaten, saya sudah makan. All those things, notice that the verb stays the same. You just need to add another word in front of the verb to say if you have done it, if you are doing it, or if you will be doing it. Also, in terms of subject, he, she, or it, with they, we, and I, the verb stays the same. We do not change it also according to gender, female or male. It stays exactly how it is. Number three, Bahasa Indonesia doesn't have articles or plural forms. So in English you have an, a, and the, while in Indonesia we do not have that. We just have to say the word. So let's say an apple. You just say apple. Or you can say satu apel, which is one apple. And in plural forms, English uses an S on the back, or they change the word completely. Like book to books, goose to geese. In Indonesia, we don't use that. So when you say house to houses, you just say rumah to rumah-rumah. Rumah-rumah is the plural form of rumah or house. But usually, we just have to say it is many houses or a few houses, which is banyak rumah or beberapa rumah. Fourth is that affixes is everything. So to change the verb, all that you need to do is to add the affixes in front of the verb. Let's say to see, which is melihat. To be seen, which is dilihat. So notice that lihat is the root word, but you need to add me or di to say if it is to see or if it's to be seen by someone. And lastly, Bahasa Indonesia doesn't have a very complex grammatical rules. So if there is a grammatical error, it's not a crime. It's okay in informal Bahasa Indonesia when you mix up a word or two in a sentence. People still understand what you mean. But in terms of formal Bahasa Indonesia, when you're writing an article or an essay, it's very important to consider those grammatical rules, how to construct a paragraph correctly or how to construct a sentence correctly. Those punctuations, the capital letters, those things are very important, and we are very particular of those things. As I said before, Bahasa Indonesia has formal and informal. We have the baku and not baku. So if you're learning Indonesian overseas, you're probably learning the formal one or the standardized in Bahasa Indonesia. While when you come here and then you listen to us talking, we're using the Bahasa Gaul or the everyday language. And this Bahasa Gaul also varies in different parts of the country. So if you're in Java or if you're in Jakarta, it's different when you're in Sulawesi or if you're in Sumatra. And the slangs also different, varies in different parts. So now I'm going to teach you some Indonesian slangs that we usually use and it's used throughout the country. Number 1 is lebay. An example of this is when you are in a simple dinner and your friend comes in with all things glitter and sparkle, and you would say, oh, she is so lebay, or she is so extra. It can also mean overreacting. When you overreact over something, you cry or yell over something. Lebay is overreacting. Number 2 is baper. Baper is a combination of two words, which is bawa perasaan, or carrying your emotions. This is when you are too emotional over something, or when you are too sensitive over a thing. Number 3 is kepo. Kepo is when someone asks too many questions, whether it's personal or not, and people just get annoyed by those questions. That person is kepo. Number 4 is mager. Mager is also a combination of two words, which is malas gerak. And it can actually mean, it means lazy to move, literally means lazy to move. Actually, you can just say malas, which means lazy. So this is when you are asked by your parents to take something upstairs and you say, I am so mager, I'd rather be in bed all day. You're too lazy to move. Number 5 is sotoy. This word sounds similar with a familiar word, which is soto. But soto is a type of food, so don't get confused by it or don't get it mixed up. Sotoy has a Y on the back. Soto is chicken soup with spices. So sotoy is when you know someone who thinks that he or she knows everything, but most of the time get them wrong. So those Mr. Know-It-All, that is sotoy. And lastly is this word. Go ahead and try to pronounce it. This is when you laugh out loud in text in Indonesia. We have the ha 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 he he, while in Indonesia we have the WK or weka. We do not say it out loud because it would be weird, but we just use it in texting or messages or in social media. So there you go. In this video, we've learned about the brief history of Bahasa Indonesia, why the language is so easy to learn, and I have taught you some Indonesian slangs. Some notes that this is about spoken Bahasa Indonesia. This is not the formal language. If you want to learn the formal one, it's way more complicated than this. But hopefully this is helpful for you if you're learning Bahasa Indonesia or if you're new to the language. Thank you. Bye.